chemicals. Have you had a rough day? Scared me. I don't think that's a sprayer. I think it's a disker, and it is basically tilling up the soil. There's a whole bunch of dust flying because we haven't had rain in a little while, and our land around here, our soil is very clay-like. But I got worried that that was a lot of Roundup overspray. I don't think it is. Anyway, hi, welcome to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I have purchased a brand new cobalt block for the barn. It was a couple years ago at this point that we noticed one of our dairy goats, her name was Talia, she had the worst tasting milk straight out of the udder. Bitter is not the right word, but it's not far off. And what I do when I milk my goats is I just combine it all into one or many jars. I milk into one canister so it all mixes. And I was noticing that after like a day or two, my milk was disgusting tasting, and I really wanted to find the source, and I found it, and this girl was, something was wrong with her. Anyway, after talking to a few fellow goat people and doing a little bit more research, what I learned was that a lot of what goes into the flavor of the goat milk is what they eat, but part of that is how they're metabolizing their food. If goats don't have access to an adequate amount of cobalt, the bacteria in their gut can't actually synthesize its own B12. And there's something about that that causes their milk to taste off. And so the solution was giving a B12 injection, actually a B complex injection, and providing cobalt in the barn. Hi, Winnie! When we first introduced the cobalt block into our barn, we noticed that our milk was lasting and staying sweet for up to 5 weeks, which is insane. My milk right now is lasting about 2 weeks before it starts to taste like it's starting to clabber, which is pretty normal. But I actually had a situation with a couple of my goats who were born out of that same goat that had the really horrible tasting milk. They were actually starting to get goiters on their neck, and I don't know if they have them anymore. I did buy some loose kelp and they blew through that. Hey baby. So goiters are caused by the thyroid gland. It's the thyroid gland getting enlarged, and that can be because they are lacking in iodine, and that's where the kelp comes in. But let me see, baby. No, they're not really goitered up anymore. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to it's gonna be hard to see. Maybe I need to grab some cookies so we can get her to extend her neck out. Can you see that? She's got a wrinkle in her neck. She is overweight, that's for sure. She's over-conditioned, but she had a very obvious goiter happening. Sometimes babies who are nursing can get what's called a milk goiter. I have seen that as well in this exact same line. So there's something about this line of goat that maybe they have thyroid issues, but there's something about this line that is a little bit more sensitive, right? Do you have, there we go. Can you see it's like a little bit more bulbous? I don't know. It's not super normal. Do that again. Right now it's not super obvious. But I got you girls a new block. Looking online, those goiters can be caused by the iodine deficiency as well as cobalt deficiency. And this block has both salt, iodine, cobalt. Oh, I wanted that to be satisfying. Oh no. There we go. You figured it out, haven't you? One other thing that I noticed with my goats, the girls that had given birth recently, was I always dip the navels of the babies, or I swab on some iodine on the baby's navel so that they can prevent joint ill. The mamas really like licking off the iodine in general, but this year they seem to be really excited about that iodine, like basically trampling me to get to the iodine. And so I was sort of thinking that we had some kind of iodine deficiency happening. And then when Helicity and Gail came up with those goiters, it was just sort of confirmation of what I sort of already knew. So we've given them the kelp, they blew through it. I think I'm gonna order some more, just a little bit more of a bulk situation because it was expensive the way that I bought it. And then this will help as well. This is iodized salt. He's over here trying to bite chunks off. Your nose is turning blue. Well, ma'am, that's not how this works. This here is a selenium block that I had in the barn. And then this is the original cobalt block. You can see how much they've loved it. It's gross. Both of these were stored basically just on the ground. And so they got kind of yucky. I feel like I wouldn't want to lick off of these either. So I'm gonna spray them down, see if I can clean them up. And I think I'm gonna try to give this one to the bugs, and I'll give this back to the girls. I have been guilty of overlooking my bucks with things before, to include loose minerals and whatever supplements that I give the girls. Sometimes I'm not as focused on the boys because, I don't know, in my brain, the boys aren't necessarily production animals, and so they don't have as much strain on their bodies, but they do. Bucks go through rut every year, and that's very hard on their bodies, and they need these things just as much as the does. So maybe I'll actually crack that selenium block in half, but for now I'll give them the cobalt. I don't know. They'll probably knock that down. I should find something to put that in, probably. You know, it's getting kind of scary going in and out of this gate. Trying to bite my hams? You trying to bite my hams? Hey, gorgeous boys. Hi, handsomes. Baby. Bear's like, what the heck are you doing, lady? Here, I got something for you. Come here. Look at this. What do you think of that? Oh, this was a bad idea. Where's Mooch? Is he still out there eating? Hi, Bear. There he is. Huh? Do you like that? Yeah, I think they do like it. I think so. I'm watching you. Batch of dog treats done. The last time that I ran the freeze dryer with ears and feet, they ended up molding, and so I'm hoping that that doesn't happen this time. And you know what, these are a lot, they're not perfectly crispy, but they're a lot more crispy than they were, and they're not like puffed up. So I'm thinking that poking extra holes in the hide to allow more moisture to escape was probably the right call, because this is a lot more tough. Can you hear it? Super crispy. You can see on this tray here, we also put in some organ meats. This here is a little freeze-dried kidney, and you know what? I can feel a little chill on this. Sometimes ice left behind means that there's moisture left behind. I did reheat the trays before I opened that. If you know anything about freeze drying, it freezes first and then it actually does heat up for the freeze drying process, and then it'll go down into a deep freeze when everything is said and done, and you should reheat the trays before you open the door. And I did do that. Maybe I'll keep that one to the side. It is also kind of squishy. Anywho, that was a kidney. This here, that's liver, and that's a little heart. Yeah, I've opened up this little kidney that was a little bit squishy, and I don't think it's fully dry on the inside. These maybe could have stood to be cut in half. Some of the hearts I did cut in half, and I obviously cut up all of the liver. Not all of the little kidneys are squishy like that. Like, most of them are super dry and crunchy, but just as a precaution, I'm gonna pull all the little kidneys out. They look like dry beans over here. Isn't that funny? Those are all kidneys. I'm just gonna pull those out, and I'll feed these first, and I'll pack these up. The last time that I freeze dried the dog treats, I did just the ears and the feet. I didn't do the organ meats. And when these molded, they molded like on the exposed ends. And I just had them stored in a Ziploc bag like this. I have a lot of freeze dried things that we eat quickly, mostly fruits, that I store without a desiccant pack, and we go through them fast enough, and it hasn't seemed to have caused an issue. But there might be something about the fruit and the sugar content that preserves it a little bit more. Obviously there's no sugar in these, and so to make sure that I have as much moisture out of these as I can, I am going to put desiccant pack in these bags and in the jars. These are just a 10-gram desiccant pack. I like these ones because you can tell when they've absorbed as much moisture as they're going to absorb. These are the Wise Dry brand. You see the little orange balls in there? Those will turn blue when they've absorbed like too much moisture. And then you can put these either in your oven or in the dehydrator. You could probably stick them in the freeze dryer if you wanted to, and essentially recharge them. It'll suck all the moisture out of it. You can see these turn orange again and reuse them. And then for the organ meats in the jars, I am going to vacuum seal these. I'm going to go through this jar first, so I'll just screw a lid onto that. But I want these to last a little bit longer, and vacuum sealing will help me achieve that. So what I have down here is just a regular old vacuum sealer with this accessory port. And this is a really neat accessory. I have a regular mouth one too, but this, we're just going to put the lid on and put this on, and that vacuum that this will pull will come straight through this tube and take the air out of a jar. It's really neat. This is one of those food preservation tools that I feel like every new homesteader should have first. A vacuum sealer with this type of attachment. There we go. When it stops, it's done. All sealed. This is just a regular canning lid without the ring, the vacuum seal attachment, the hose, hard to do with one hand. There we go. Can't remember how many bunnies that were harvested this time. It might have been 15. And normally this is something that we toss to the pigs. And I think we're done tossing these parts to the pigs. Not that it wasn't awesome to be able to convert these parts into bacon, but this is actually going to save us some money. Even though it does cost money to run the freeze dryer, it doesn't cost as much as this volume of dog treats cost. And so yeah, it helps our meat harvest go just a little bit further, which is nice. Buster! Oh, there he is. He's already licking his lips. Hi, handsome. You want to try one of these first? He usually gets these raw during processing day. Not all of them at once. Try that. That's a kidney. Can we watch you enjoy it? You want a foot now? You want a foot now? Yeah, he loves these. What, you don't want us in your face, seeing how you like it? He is teething, so that one might be a little hard for him. Is that a little rough? That ear? Yeah. Good morning, boys. Where's Mooney? Is he outside? I need Mooney. There he is. Dude, you are going home today. The goats are starting to leave. They've been kind of trickling out over the last little bit, but April is going to be a very large goat exodus. Mooney's one of the first babies to go, and he's the first mini La Mancha to go. And I need to tattoo his tail because the La Manchas don't have the ears with the tattoo. And I actually prefer tail tattoos, and so I'll show you how I do that. Just like to verify, we've got 2 testicles, 2 teats. He's ready to go. I do need to shave off these little hairs on the side. It just makes things a little bit easier. Where the tattoo is gonna go is in the tail web. So he's got his tail here. I don't really want to be clamping over the bone. That would hurt like crazy. But right here on the side. One tattoo is gonna go on this side, and then he's gonna have the other tattoo on this side. Clean off the area. It's good to go. All right, so what I do is I actually have 2 sets of pliers. One set of pliers is for my herd tattoo, which is S&S4 for both the ADGA and the MVGA. I have the same tattoo. This number is gonna go on his right side, which is this side right here. And then this one holds the kid tattoo, or the kid number. With the kid number, there's a letter that represents the year they were born, and then a number that represents basically what birth order they were born in. And that's gonna go on his left side. I think you can probably see it there. All it is a bunch of little tiny needles. It's gonna be poking some holes in his skin, and then we're gonna backfill those holes with tattoo ink. Go. My tattoo ink tube exploded, so it's in this bag. I do have the rollerball tattoo ink, but it just doesn't seem like it's gonna work as well, so I'm just getting what I can out of this. Small amount, don't need much. Yep. And really in no time, this ink will slough off. It'll dry and then slough off, but it will remain inside those little holes that we poked. And he'll have a permanent tattoo. And he will semi-permanently be angry at me. No, they do get over it. He's already had his copper bolus, but we'll just check and make sure everything still looks good in here. Come on, turn your head. Beautiful. He is so well structured. I'm so proud of him. Oh my gosh. Yes, I know I may have done things in the wrong order today. I'm sorry. It doesn't actually matter if you hoof trim before or after a tattoo or whatever. It's just I generally try to get the most traumatic thing done last so that they're more settled for the rest of what I need to do with them. He's almost done. Incoming. Spunky, you going home soon too? Usually the big goats get in the way before she gets a chance at a cookie. Yeah. Good girl. How goes it? Hello. Hello. Handsome. Tonka. Yes, your baby's so sweet, Tori. How are y'all liking the mineral blocks? Fun to play on, huh? They're already making good dents in it. In there. Look at the mushrooms growing. How cool! I think I started too many tomatoes again. I think I've got space 5 for 18 tomato plants. I have 3 different types here. There's the Belgian Giant, which are these guys. These are my favorite tomatoes. And then really the other tomato that I have, the Dr. Witchies, these are really my second favorite. They're just like the Belgian Giant, just a different color. And with that different color comes a little bit of a different flavor. The Dr. Witchies is more of an orange tomato. So they have a little bit more of a bright, kind of citrusy, seemingly low acid type flavor, while these, they have actually a pink skin on them. And they're beautifully like savory and umami. Both of these have lots of high flesh and low seeds. And really, I didn't mark all of these. These are the only ones that I know are Dr. Witchies and Belgian Giants. And then I can just kind of guess after that. I think these are probably Belgian Giants. These are probably the Dr. Witchies. And then these ones are what I have left over from what I started for my kids. They wanted to grow an oxheart tomato, and I started more than they needed just to make sure we would have enough. And so I've got these out here too. I may put these out. I'm running out of space in all of my garden spaces to put things like tomatoes, and I actually already gave myself an extra bed out here on the lane to grow tomatoes specifically. So I've got to make some cuts. I know for sure we're going to need more Belgian Giant than Dr. Witchies, because when it comes to making things like sauces, I do want a little bit more of that savory umami and a little bit less of the super sweet and bright, although the super sweet and bright is nice. So I know for sure this here is the Dr. Witchies. So maybe we'll stick those here. I can fit 5 tomatoes in the 10-foot beds and 4 tomatoes in the 8-foot beds. I think I've only got 2 8-foot beds out here. Look at me, I'm mixing things all up. Dr. Witchies. Uh-oh. Yeah, these are Belgian Giants down here. Okay. I may surprise myself with what I planted versus what I thought I planted, but okay, let's get going. Oop. What you see dangling here are just extra strings from last year. I did grow tomatoes over here last year, and this is my way of tethering the tomatoes up to the trellis. The trellis is probably at least a foot above the soil, and sometimes the smaller tomato plants, when the wind really gets to whipping, I like to have them secure, and so I'll be securing the tomato plants to these lines later, but we don't have to worry about that right now. It does help me figure out exactly where to plant them though. This soil is kind of wet, so they're not coming out super easily. They'll be all right. Tomatoes are very resilient too, you know, manhandling. I know a lot of people suggest to plant an egg in the hole when you plant your tomatoes, and I don't think that that's bad advice. This particular bed, this particular area is the farthest from my house. We do see critter activity out here, and I'm a little bit nervous that if I put an egg in this bed, I may encourage whatever's out here, whether it be a skunk or a raccoon or a possum. I still haven't decided what I think it is yet. Encourage them to dig up the bed. I don't want that. So we're gonna leave it alone for now. What I'll probably do is combine top dress with some barn clean out. So just whatever underneath my rabbits, rabbit manure and hay, and that will also help mulch the space without using more wood chips. I do have quite the issue with roly-polies on my homestead. I don't really worry about them in brand new beds like this. This isn't really a brand new bed, but I had to put a lot of new soil in here, and so the roly-polies aren't going to be attracted to this bed before the tomato seedlings are big enough to not really be affected by the roly-polies. But I'm trying to see what else I can mulch with that isn't wood-based, so that I'm not creating such like a perfect environment for the roly-polies, because birds and roly-polies are my biggest pests around here. When I up-potted these tomato plants into these pots a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody ask me why I wasn't planting the tomatoes deep at that time. And the reason that you like to plant your tomatoes deep is because they will grow some roots along the stem, and that just helps them get more nutrition and helps them stay hydrated through the heat of the summer. But what I'm doing when I'm up potting my tomatoes is not only giving my tomatoes a little bit more space, but I'm trying to give myself a little bit more time. And when I bottom water in my seed starting area, that just encourages those roots to grow down, and I get, you know, long roots regardless. And then when I do plant them in the bed, that is when I plant them deeply, because at this point they're kind of just at the mercy of the weather, and the further down I can put them, that means the better access they have to moisture, especially. See, we got some long roots on that dude. And if we plant it deeply, it'll grow some more. This here is a bed that we filled and used last year, and it does have the wood mulch on top. I'm just gonna move the mulch to the side and get down in here. I'm not seeing a whole lot of roly-poly activity out here though, and that's encouraging. The bird pressure might be too much for the roly-polies out here. Hopefully they're not too much for my tomatoes. I haven't really experienced birds really taking tomatoes out. They really like things like peas and beans. So I'm just gonna take off these lower leaves and get this guy down low. Okay. From here on, I'm just gonna plant what I believe are the rest of my Belgian giants. So I've got 5 Dr. Witchies, and then there'll be 13 Belgian giant plants. I don't think I've ever grown this many. I've grown quite a few tomato plants before, but not this many Belgian giants. You may be noticing that I'm not amending this particular bed right now. I kind of want to see what the plants do. I did order some more Trifecta Plus, and I can top dress later if needed. I worry a little bit about over fertilizing. I've done that in the past, and I've had to deal with a lot of aphids, and so I'm a little bit gun shy when it comes to that now. And you may be wondering, Heather, why did you knowingly plant too many tomatoes? Isn't that a waste of seed? Not necessarily. I tried to start more than I'm going to need, because anything could happen. We could have a weird rogue freeze. We could have roly-polies or birds take out whatever I put in here, cutworms, a crazy windstorm, anything. So I will be saving these extras, and if I don't end up using them, my friend Megan might want them. Oof. Oh, I don't know if you can hear what's happening in here, but I just dug down into this bed, and we filled this bed using the hugelkultur method. So we put actually rotten logs on the bottom of this bed, and as I'm digging down, I'm breaking through it, and there's just a much bigger hole than I intended to start. Just opened right up. The roots of your plants are not going to grow into air. That's one of the reasons that a lot of plant start pots nowadays have these little strips on the side. These are air pruning strips, and what these do is they actually prevent the plant from becoming root bound. It's not going to be super perfect, like you can't leave them in here forever, but a lot of times a plant, when it puts its roots out to the side and it hits the wall, what it's going to do is kind of grow that root along the side of the wall, looking for water and looking for a place to expand. And with these kind of things, once it coils around and hits the air, it just stops. It stops the root from getting coiled around itself and essentially choking itself out. Of course, that one wasn't going to come out great for us, but that's okay. I need to get more soil for this hole. Stopping their root growth in the little start pot is fine because we don't want them to get root bound inside that tiny pot. But in the bed, we'd like them to be able to grow as much root as possible. And so the air pruning in the bed isn't as great because if you have restricted roots, you have restricted moisture uptake and also restricted nutrient uptake. This one has a hole too. It actually goes at an angle. This might be interesting this year. This bed we put in this year, so I don't have any hanging guides, but roughly every 18 inches or so in the bed. There we go. This one came out nice. You kind of see once the roots get to where one of those air pruning strips was, it grows down instead of around, and that's nice. And I actually think in this bed I might sacrifice 2 of the 13 Belgian giant spots for some of the ox hearts. That'll be nice to have out here. The kids' tomatoes are their tomatoes, and I don't want to be sad that I didn't have ox hearts too. All right, I thought about maybe not putting the little baby trash cans over the plants this time because the birds really haven't been a big issue in the rest of the planting spaces, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I have them, so I should be able to use them and get a little bit of peace of mind. I bought these off of Amazon, and then I saw them for sale. I think it was either at Dollar General or Dollar Tree. Either one of them has a much better price on these, or just, you know, a metal waste basket. This is my 2nd season, I think. Maybe the 3rd season using these. And yeah, they're great not only against keeping the birds from messing them up, but also if you have cats or dogs or other things that like to get in your garden beds, this helps protect them from those as well. At least to a point. I mean, my dog, Buster, he will come up the lane and he has been known to lay in certain beds and to dig in certain beds, but he won't do it if there's something in the bed like this. Now I know I didn't take you along for the whole thing, but believe it or not, with that, the entire lane is planted. And I am planning a garden tour coming up. Hopefully everything I've planted has sprouted by this weekend. Today is Tuesday, it might be sprouted by Sunday, it kind of just depends. In any case, this is very exciting, and all of this is going to look so different in just a few months. Well, hi. We've got our hands in the dirt again today. This is actually where I have grown strawberries for about 5 years. My strawberries last year, I just really didn't do much with them at all. I think it was slugs or roly-polies or something had eaten all the berries that came on. There actually were a lot of green berries, so I was really excited about it, but we didn't harvest anything out of this bed last year, and then I let the weeds take over, and literally none of the strawberries made it back, or made it out of the winter. There's actually a ton of strawberry crowns just dead in here. I have spent the last couple of days weeding off and on. There's a lot of grass in here. This is one of the original beds that came with our homestead. It was put in 2015 actually, so I'm surprised that there's really any wood left. This was probably treated wood when it was put in. There used to be actually a center board right here, and that's basically gone. Anyway, all that to say that no matter how many barriers and things you put in, this creeping grass does make its way through. See? And I just take out what I can. But what I'm doing today is I actually just got some more asparagus crowns in the mail today. I have asparagus over here. There's a little bit of asparagus creeping in this way. This was intentional. Some of it wasn't. I've got some little baby asparagus here, but then I'd like to fill out the rest of this and just have this whole back section be asparagus. All right, so what I have next to me is a bundle of 25 asparagus crowns. They said that these are 1-year crowns. These are very beefy crowns. It wouldn't surprise me if these were in fact 2-year crowns, but in any case, it's been a few years since I planted asparagus. Did I just say strawberry? I meant asparagus. These are definitely asparagus crowns, and they are planted differently than strawberry crowns. They look really, really similar, but this entire thing is going to go under the ground and we're going to splay it out like this. There are a couple different ways of planting asparagus that I have seen. This is just what I've done before and it works really well. I like to put my asparagus plants about every square foot essentially. So I've got a plant over here, and what I'm going to do is actually take some of the surrounding soil here and mound it up and set this asparagus crown right on top like that. And I am going to come through with some more soil. I need to go grab another bag or two. This variety of asparagus is called Purple Passion, and I got it at Johnny's. So here's the bird's eye view. Got the top of the crown here, and the little root tentacles just spread out like that. I'm going to finish filling this out and then I will cover them with soil. Put it on the mister and show him what he does. Oh.
He likes water.
Here, spray it. I can't remember what happened, but one time he was into something that he shouldn't have been, and I was out with the hose watering the garden or whatever, and so I sprayed him to try to stop him from doing whatever he was doing. He did not care. He loved it so much. You like water, don't you? Yeah, I guess most dogs do. Cats don't. That's for sure.
He likes this in this one.
He's crazy. Okay, so what I'm not gonna do is harvest any asparagus out of this section this year. I may harvest next year. It kind of just depends on how these establish and the size of the spears that are coming out of the ground. These crowns were so big they may throw off some of the bigger spears, but still I want them to establish, so I'm not going to harvest. These crowns have been in the ground since I think 2020, and they were 2-year crowns when I put them in, but they're still making some baby spears. As they do, the crown will continue to spread and that'll put up small spears. These are the ones that I leave, and anything larger than the diameter of a pencil is harvestable as long as the crown has been allowed to establish for at least a season. If you are starting your asparagus from seed, you want to wait until at least the 2nd year ideally the 3rd year. I actually have some asparagus that volunteered over here last year, and it did put up a semi-large spear as well as this little spear here, and it'll put up a lot more. I'd say you can harvest lightly in the 2nd year as long as you're getting a spear or 2 that is larger, and in the 3rd year you can harvest pretty heavily. Making sure you leave the skinny ones back in order to feed the crown. That's what this guy is doing. This long asparagus has done the thing that asparagus do, and this is actually looks like a female asparagus. We've got some flowers already coming on this one. Yes, asparagus crowns come in male and female, and we have a little bit of both because we do get viable seed, which is awesome. I really like to see where the asparagus ends up. Actually, my husband just recently mowed this area between our property and our neighbor's property, and while he was mowing, he found this little guy next to the fence, and so I dug it up and brought it over. Well, FedEx just came. Got drip tubing for the lane. This is actually the main line tubing. And then a really fun little addition to the perennial garden. Oh no, it's upside down. Poor thing. Oh, it looks great. Have you had a rough day? This here is a golden raspberry. We have been wanting to put in raspberries for, goodness, at least a few years, and we hadn't done it until this year. I really wasn't quite sure where I wanted to put them. This guy probably needs to rest in the partial shade for a couple days before I plant them out. What I am going to do is cut off this zip tie. What they do when they ship plants is they actually put them in a bag like so, and they zip tie loosely around the top so the dirt doesn't fly everywhere, which is good because this poor guy was totally upside down. Good morning, handsome. You're so handsome. Doesn't feel totally dry. Might give it just a little bit of a drink and a couple days in the shade to acclimate a little bit. This here is kind of the far east side of the perennial garden. There's like a random grass plot in our front yard that doesn't have a lot going on. There's a couple elderberry plants right there, and those actually are filling out a lot more than they have in years prior. But the raspberries are here. These are the red ones, and I'll put the golden one in the middle. My friend Megan actually just sent me a text, and she said that it looks like we're slotted to be in a level 2 drought in our area very soon. As I've talked about in the past, our property is the lower spot around us. So we'll see the surrounding area kind of dry out before our land starts to dry out. It's kind of a blessing and a curse to be in the low spot because when we have very wet seasons, we're basically underwater, and it's not a good thing. But with the clay that our soil is, it actually will retain quite a bit of moisture. And what I'll do in preparation for the drought is not mow as much, because that's going to help keep moisture in the soil and make sure that I do get stocked up on things like hay that I may need to supplement with. But it's a good thing that we're putting in irrigation in places like the lane, because we're going to need it. It doesn't seem like we're going to get a lot of overhead rain, but it's almost a blessing too, because it means we'll have a lot less parasite pressure in our goats, and we may have a lot less disease pressure in the garden. So we're just gonna have to see. Boys think it's food time. It's not quite yet. Anywho, I am still currently hand watering out on the lane. I've got seeds out here that I want to make sure stay moist so they've got good germination. I'm gonna go ahead and get to doing that. I'll end the video here. We'll pick it back up with a garden tour on Tuesday.